what does the new review flow actually look like? Well, a few things have stayed the same. You get title and description to read. You get a photo that's going to be like on the photo disc. And then you get a supplemental photo. You also get to look at a map. You can look at the satellite view or the map view. You have Pegman that you can look at the street view. And then let's stop there and let's actually, well, okay, no, let's keep going. You have 4 new questions. You want to know, is it appropriate? Is the location appropriate to be visited by pedestrians? There's a little I button there, so you can click for more information. These kind of locations are appropriate. Both indoors and outdoors is fine. You can have restricted locations. So that means you can have gated communities or member-only locations and military bases. You can have ticketed places, so anything that requires a ticket to access, like theme parks, museums, those are fine. And businesses. Indoor locations and businesses with items for purchase are allowed. These locations are not appropriate. So here's a short list. Private property, a private residential property, even if historical or farmland. A K through 12 school and under. So I know that's a very American-centric term for that. So it's basically anything that's designed to be school or childcare where the children are left in the care of the organization. For kids that are under 18. Adults, so any location that's adult-oriented, liquor store, shooting range, firearms store provides sexual and or adult content. Sensitive, funeral homes, burial grounds, cemeteries, memorials, plantations, political campaign offices, concentration camps, homeless shelters, abortion clinics, domestic violence shelters, jails, prisons, bail bonds places, which we know that's pretty American language, and graveyards. So that still has some gray area to it. Memorials, there's some gray area to that too, because we're not exactly sure what that means, because there's a lot of places where memorials are totally fine. Essentially, just be sensitive to the local culture, and if there are people who have come there to mourn or reflect quietly, certainly like a place like the 9/11 memorial, or as they mentioned, concentration camps, like if you go to Auschwitz, don't think it's an appropriate place to submit things. Okay. Obstructs emergency services, locations that obstruct the driveways of emergency services or may interfere with the operations of fire stations, police stations, hospitals, military bases, industrial sites, power plants, or air traffic control towers. And then number 6 is going to be open to a lot of interpretation. A generic business, chain, or franchise that is not uniquely important to the local community. So it's interesting there that the last thing listed on places that are not appropriate is kind of also the thing that's listed here as can be appropriate. So you just, again, it's going to take some judgment there. So we have changed for these 4 things to a thumbs up, thumbs down. So yes, no, or I don't know. If we look at safe, the question is the location safe and publicly accessible by pedestrians? Dangerous locations include, but are not limited to, a highway, freeway, a bridge with car traffic, crossing a waterway, pond, lake, river, etc., airport runways, railway tracks, industrial sites, power plants, or air traffic control towers. I mean, that's all good judgment stuff. Accurate and high quality. We actually did ask them to put an information box here primarily. This is looking at the photo, the title, the location, and the description, looking at it for accuracy and informativeness. So are there a ton of misspellings? This is not high quality. This should not be referring to whether or not the POI itself is high quality. Okay. Permanent and distinct. Is the location a permanent, physical, tangible, and identifiable place or object that place marks an area? So it asks, when in the immediate area, the location is visually distinct enough to identify. So if there's like a ton of things in series, are you going to be able to pick out the one thing that you're reviewing or submitting? And a location is not permanent or distinct if it is temporary. So the location, place, or object is temporary or highly unlikely to be able to be revisited. So those are the first four main things we get to, and then we get into socialize, exercise, and explore. These are the criteria for Wayfarer. So what does it mean, socialize? Is this a gathering place for friends or strangers alike where you can share a drink or meal, be entertained, or watch public life happen, or something that draws us together to share an experience in a locally and culturally relevant way? Examples include pavilions, post offices, gaming, comic stores, libraries, including free little libraries on public spaces, parks and plazas, fountains and water features, famous transit stations, popular restaurants, favorite coffee shops. Oh, this is interesting because they're including little free libraries under socialize. I always thought of them as under the explore criteria, but that's fine. Okay, and then you go down to exercise. Is this a good place for light physical activity? So it would be considered good if it's a place you'd go to get some fresh air, stretch your legs, or exercise, places that encourage walking, exercising, and enjoying public spaces, or something that teaches or encourages us to be our healthiest selves. Examples include parks and plazas, gardens, forest, hiking trails, biking trails, exercise equipment in public spaces, sports arenas, and sports facilities. And the last one is explore. So it's a place you love to venture out to, a destination or place mark of local interest and importance which makes our communities unique and shapes its identity. Somewhere or something that tells the unique story about a place, its history, its cultural meaning, or teaches us about the community we live in. Examples: historic plaques, unique art or architecture, public libraries, public places of worship, zoos, museums and galleries, community gardens, nature signs, historic gravestones. See, they put in historic gravestones. Unusual or unique shops. So what I think is interesting here is what I see a lot is people say, well, this is just cool because it's old. But remember it kind of teaches us something about the community we live in. So if you're going to submit something that is historic, you need to be able to understand the history behind it when you're submitting it. And then you get the categories. So I'm going to stop this video now, and then I'll do a different video where I actually analyze this thing. Or not, because it just expired on me. I'll move on to the next thing.